to In the Zone, brought to you by U.S. Construction Zone, bringing you strategies for success with construction innovators and change makers, including In the Zone peer-nominated national award winners. Here are your hosts, Jeremy and Valerie Owens.
Welcome to In the Zone. I am your host, Jeremy Owens, and unfortunately, Valerie couldn't make it. She is a school teacher, so I have a lot of people who want to get on this podcast, and with her working during the day, it's been hard to navigate some of those schedules. So I want to be able to make sure I provide more content and more of the time. So I wanted to just kind of give you that quick update. We'll see how Valerie's schedule can allow for some of the podcasts in the future, but you will have my sunny voice. Again, I have a radio voice, not a TV face. So again, welcome to the podcast. We have a very important topic today. We have Dr. Giovanna Brasfield, and she's more commonly known as Dr. G, and she is a diversity, inclusion, and equity expert. And that's a mouthful. And this is a subject that I think a lot of people need work on, especially in the construction industry. We are so far behind most industries in terms of DEI, in terms of women and minorities. Women represent 11% now. That is very low. So for someone like Dr. G, who is a double minority in construction and excelling at the highest levels, I commend her, and I am a big fan of hers. I met her through Jennifer Todd, who was on Construction Executives Live, and for those who were tuning into that, Dr. G was in Nova Scotia at the time, and her connection dropped off right during the live show. So Jennifer Todd had to kind of pick up some slack for her, but I wanted to make sure I had a chance to talk with her, and I'm glad we did. We made the time, and so I hope you guys enjoy the podcast, and also some of my thoughts when I'm all done. So here is Dr. G.
Welcome here, guys. Giovanna Brasfield, Dr. G, is an accomplished diversity, equity, and inclusion advocate with over 18 years of experience in construction, focusing on leadership and DEI program development, training, education, and outreach for the construction industry. Recognition for her work is pretty long, so it's being named a 2021 Outstanding Woman in Construction by the Construction Business Owner magazine, 2021 Inspirational Women finalist by the LA Times, 2021 LA County Impact Maker by Stratoscope, 2020 Mujer del Año Woman of the Year by Regional Hispanic Institute, and named a game changer by Diversity Professional magazine. She's also a DEI social influencer with Autodesk industry bloggers, called a top 50 construction influencer across the U.S. in 2020 and 2019. You hold 2 doctorate degrees. You sit on a lot of boards. That is an impressive resume you have there, Dr. G.
Well, thank you so much, Jeremy.
You're welcome, and thank you for being here. And as I said in the intro, we had a little snafu in our live show. You were traveling to Nova Scotia, right?
Yes.
How was that trip? Did it end up going?
It was great. It was great. Yeah, I had a chance to do a little bit of R&R and of course business out there. So
awesome.
Great.
Yeah, I've never been in those neck of the woods, but it sounded like you were about to go have some fun. So I'm sure you did just fine. Well, thanks again. Well, let's just get started with, I just wanted to get a little bit of background. How did you get started in the construction industry?
Well, interesting enough, my journey started just by simple, raising my hand. I was consulting in the area of educational consulting and focusing on high school exit exams. At that time, I was really doing extremely well with policy and understanding and interpreting and even applying various different policies within that space. So from there, I was consulting at the Small Business Development Center, and they asked me to take on a role where it looked at how to get more businesses certified within the state of California to do business with the government. From there, loved it. Having or speaking up for those often overlooked or not included, and making sure that they got certified, making sure they got the resources to be successful, the capacity, the developing their capability statement. And that's kind of how my career really truly took off. And then from there, constantly taking on more challenges, more growth, looking at the financing of projects, working with our estimating team, our procurement teams to really think about pre-construction work, construction work, closeouts, and really truly inclusive practices across the gambit.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like you said yes a lot in the beginning. Like you said, raising your hand. And, honestly, I can't tell you how many people have said that, like maybe jumping into something that, maybe they wouldn't have thought of.
Right.
And I mean, right, all the good things are on the other side of fear or, that boundary. So it sounds like just saying yes.
It is. And you think about just my journey. Yes, I've had a long, extensive background working from consulting. Then I started working for a civil construction company. Then I went for a commercial construction company. And more recently, I had a chance to elevate to a vice president role with a large major civil construction company. And then because of industry is where it was, people were asking for more inclusive practices, trying to understand how does DEI work when it comes to the job site? How does it work when it comes to employee resource groups or business resource groups? So I thought about in October of last year, relaunching my own practice, which was beautiful timing because there's so many organizations within our industry that are looking for intentional, sustainable, long-term practices that they really can become inclusive when it comes to workforce and projects.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's so needed. And I mean, there's no secret that, construction industry's had a branding issue, forever. Typically the imagery has always been a white male with a hard hat, right?
Right.
And why is imagery so important? And I mean, as a white male, that's what I was used to, right?
Right.
So, I mean, tell them from your perspective, why is imagery so important?
And imagery is critically important, especially in our now. All that we're faced with, across industry for the past probably 20 years, we've known that there was going to be a workforce shortage. We've known that there were impacts to the overall industry when it comes to diversity, but now we're seeing the call to action from organizations across.
Yeah.
To make sure that there's more representation. And when you're thinking about imagery, you have to make sure that when we're not only talking about, we have diversity within our companies, but you're showing that externally and even internally. When people are thinking about how do they feel when they come into the organization, do they feel like they belong? Do they feel like they're part of the overall? And these components, when you're looking at imagery, is so important.
Yeah.
We talk about just the percentage. For example, I'll go back to women. Women in industry, we've been teeter-tottering just about 11% in industry. Why are we there when we've known this problem for some time? Or even when we look at minorities in industry, why are we there? We've known this problem for some time. But now I think the call to action, all the research, all the data, when it comes to just making sure we're retaining our workers and really growing those future, Generation X, getting them into this industry overall, it's so important. I think about an example. I had a chance to go to high school, and I was doing a presentation talking about construction and kind of my journey and just sharing with them how I got involved in construction. That same very question that you asked me, how did you get involved in construction?
Sure.
And one of the girls came to me afterwards, and they're like, wow, gee, that was great. We don't get a chance to see very many African-American women that are at your status in the organization, just overall. And I'm like, wow, perspective. So I'm just thinking about still the future leaders are looking to us as industry to see the diversity that we're talking about that exists in our industry, to even have the leaders reflect the communities that we're trying to serve, we're building in.
Right. I mean, it's so true, right? Like if you can't see it, then how can it really be a goal, right? So like if you're looking up to somebody like yourself for them, I mean, if they don't see you, then maybe they don't have that dream.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's just like how many dreams start with a role model that you're looking up to.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it makes total sense on paper. Obviously, a lot of people can't, always wrap their mind around that. But, the concept of inclusivity is obviously foreign to a lot of us in construction. And that's part of your role in teaching them that. And that's why they come to you for this advice. what would you kind of recommend as a good starting point, or how do you get started with someone?
Well, it depends on the overall objective, because there's just two different things. There's the project level objectives, where of course the owners, the agencies are influencing the overall requirements for the project. But it boils back from that. It goes back to the deep roots of the organization. When you're talking about listening, when you're talking about all inclusive, when you're talking about just making sure employees feel like they belong. So when they come in, when you're thinking about recruitment, where are you even recruiting from? People say, oh, yeah, we go to these schools in urban areas. I'm like, but what is the teams looking like to doing the recruitment? Are they really talking to the different groups at where they are? How do we really serve as an ally, in essence, right? Really making sure that we're listening, engaging, and intentionally making change.
Right. Oh, totally. I like that piece you had on the 10 things you can do to promote inclusion and diversity. And that's kind of, you made a little infographic out of it. And I'll go ahead and put it in the notes here because I think it was super helpful for me. And there was a couple pointers on there that I really liked. And a few of them were, I think that a lot of us struggle with was number 4 on that list, which is demonstrate to employees that they're valued. I mean, what are some tips to help people with that? Because honestly, I think the value piece is missing for a lot of construction owners. It's still kind of a man's club sometimes, or a rough managing style. Like, you don't want to compliment, you don't want to value because you think it's gonna, make their work suffer. Like, there's all these crazy things that are out there. But I guess talk to me a little bit about that particular one in valuing your employees.
That value, man, especially in our now, with the great resignation, now we're having the great reset, right? There's all this need for employees to feel valued, to feel a part of. So when you're in a meeting, simple, it doesn't have to be rocket science. When you're in a meeting and people are talking about their ideals, their thoughts of how to maybe look at the project, add more efficiency, look at the schedule, whatever they're talking about, make sure you're inclusive with engaging them in the overall. So right. Don't just let the ideal sit out there and plop. I call it the plopping ideal, where there's no recognition, or you're looking for the next person to say something, or the male person in the room to say something. Everyone should be a part of the overall discussion, and their input should be valued as well. That was a great idea. Let's think about it a little bit deeper, or even encouraging them to talk. For example, there's even some people that just are more on the quiet side of meetings. Yeah. Calling on them to engage. It doesn't mean they don't have anything to contribute just because they're quiet. It's figuring out a way as a leader in the room or running the meeting is to get everyone to be a part of and feel like their input is of value. And it's just like them.
I mean, it makes total sense. I mean, everyone has a different worldview, an upbringing, a culture, right? And I think that so often as a manager, you think United States is my culture.
Right.
And everyone else needs to conform to that. Where in reality, it's like we need all these different perspectives if we want to have a full, well-rounded business.
Right.
But I guess that's got to be such a challenge for you because it's new for a lot of us.
It is. And I think about this one example that was so pivotal. It was right in the heart, the heat of the social injustice. When the city of Los Angeles took a position on having a curfew. So everyone had to get home by a certain time. And because we're critical infrastructure, we're out there, we're still building, we're still keeping our jobs moving. And I remember our job site gave out these little passes. If you get pulled over by the police, you pull out this and you show them that you're a critical infrastructure worker working on our project right here in Los Angeles. And it's okay. You'll be able to get home to your home, your family. Right. The funny thing is, what we didn't do was listen to all employees. There was this one quiet person on the team, and then eventually he got enough courage to come to me and say, hey, Dr. G, can I have a conversation with you about this pass? Sure. I think it's a great thing. I thought it makes sense. We have the pass. You can go home to your family. It's provide you with the visibility to show the police so that you can commute.
Right.
He said, Dr. G, I'm a Black man. How am I going to reach in my glove box? Or how am I going to reach in my wallet to show the police this pass? And at that moment, I had to pause and reflect and listen more so, like I talked about the value of all voices being heard.
Right.
That was a huge oversight.
Hmm.
Huge. And you would say, oh, Dr. G, you're black too. But no, there was a huge oversight, males. And I mean, just my perspective was limited. And so him providing a voice for so many that didn't have the courage to speak up. We were able to modify our program, making sure that we had more inclusive practices when it came to that particular initiative with the past, and having something that we could stick to the actual windshield so police would see if someone, and then that'll be a different conversation where you can still have your hands on the wheel and you can say, officer, I'm on this job site at this project, right? But again, it was just listening and then the value of all input.
Right. I mean, it's a great segue into number 8 on that infographic, which is lead with empathy, which is one of my favorite words, and everyone could use a giant scoopful more of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, why is empathy, and understanding other people's perspectives so important to this movement? I mean, just kind of to your earlier point, without empathy, you can't really do anything, right?
Nope. And you're informing those awareness and those experiences, and then it's because we all have our own walks of life, different experience, different backgrounds. It's understanding, but taking the time to press pause because of our differences, our uniqueness, that kind of make us one melting pot of knowledge.
Right.
That we have to empathize with others, and especially as leaders within organizations, hearing from employees. Like, to me, I had to just take a step back. I'm like, wow, didn't think about that. All these people in the room when we were planning out the strategy, that one part where we didn't think about someone who the George Floyd,
Right.
how they feel in that moment, the empathy was missing. So once we started listening and really engaging and opening our, I guess kind of us as leaders, removing the barriers in essence for making feel comfortable to talk about the issue.
Right. And I think so many times, like we said, they're quiet, but, hopefully all of you guys are finding your voice, and being able to speak up because, we need the voices. And that's what I love about what you're doing. And you're always just, I keep hearing that you're just a woman of action. And, I love that. And tell me a little bit about like what you're doing now and some of your programming and how we can help.
Yes, I have a chance to serve on some amazing boards and committees that are really making a difference within our overall industry. It is truly a pivotal time for these organizations to take this action step that they are, and I'm so honored to be a part of them. So I think about the Associated General Contractors of California. The overarching national has amazing resources, but when you're looking specifically at California, where I serve on the Construction Education Foundation board, we're looking at educating industry. So there's support for, of course, DEI. There's a forum we have, which is a training component that people can log in and hear and engage. There's also amazing resources online that we have on the website. There's also some toolkits, some helpful hints. We did a study where the state board accepted the recommendations, and I have a chance to chair the DEI steering committee and work with 17 amazing, phenomenal professionals within industry that are in the state of California when it comes to inclusive practices. There's also RAND. RAND Foundation has a Center to Advance Racial Equity Policy that's led by Dr. Rihanna Rogers. Amazing resources, so many different ways of which we're looking at infrastructure equity, digital equity, and health equity, but more so the infrastructure as we are thinking about procurement and estimating and building on these certified firms. What does that look like for overall industry? So there's equity studies being conducted constantly to make sure that we're elevating the conversation. And I also have a chance to serve in the local neighborhood level where I work with West Angeles Community Development Center, where we're looking at housing specifically and making sure that those who have economic challenges have an opportunity to obtain housing, affordable housing. And what does that really look like, especially when we have the homelessness increase that we have. So we really want we are engaging. So it's, again, like I said, it's such an honor to partner with these amazing organizations and have a leadership role to really transformational change.
Yeah, awesome. I'll definitely need some of those links for you because, as a starting point for a lot of folks, it's just the information, and pointing them in the right direction. And that's kind of what I feel my goal is sometimes is, is not to know it, but to find people who know it and then kind of point them in the right direction. And that's all I can do in this particular case because I'm learning myself. So, what about, you said something, about the high schools and going into the younger folks. How are we doing there? Because I know that we have failed there miserably for decades. I mean, I don't even know the last time we were good at it. Maybe, the 50s or something where we had more wood shop and that was kind of more of a thing that wasn't looked as a negative thing. But, the negative perception of construction, I feel like it's getting better. But what's your perspective on that?
It is, I think now there's a lot of intention because industry is well informed that we're going to have a huge workforce shortage. So what does that mean? It means starting at a younger age to provide them with exposure to construction and construction careers and the trades. And what does it all mean? And then also spotlighting all of the different careers that you can go into. There's an amazing book that Henry Nutt III has written on construction success. That's a great resource for those who are thinking about going into construction. And I'll share that link as well with you. There's that. There's Build California. That's intentional under the AGC of California's umbrella. It's called Build California, going into the schools, building ambassadors. So there's making sure that the people within industry are going back to the schools, and there's tools, there's resources, there's a training that you go through to be an ambassador and talk to our future leaders. There's also ACE Mentor, of course, that does programs, that does engagement and activities. There's an amazing firm, also PDA consulting group, that they have a youth coordinator under their workforce. They provide usually job coordination services to these large infrastructure projects, but they lead a youth engagement initiative under their umbrella. And they have her name is Regina Smith, phenomenal when it comes to engaging those future leaders. And so I remember I used to work with Regina. And so I tried to do what she does without the proper training to go into the schools and have the conversation. And it's a different skill set because you're having to go from I usually talk to adults all the time about construction, inclusion. And so to pull back, make it fun, make it something enjoyable, make it something that they can relate to. And, you think about telephones, you think about just infrastructure, buildings, bridges, make it fun so they can engage. So it's definitely now more hands-on when it comes to future leaders because we need the workers to do the work. Like, it's amazing to have all these projects out there, this infrastructure money coming in the pipeline, but who is going to build it, especially when we know there's a high population of people that are going to be retiring. That information and that knowledge and that experience is going to be lost. So we need to make sure that we're getting youth in so that we can get the people who are behind the people retiring to share the information and build the industry slowly.
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. I mean, think about all of the jobs in construction too. I mean, we always kind of talk about construction as the actual worker, right? You have to have a hammer. Like, honestly, I don't swing hammers either. So there's so many different jobs that we have failed to talk about, and avenues. And, you look at construction and buildings and what we do as an industry, we have to be so proud of how complex. Right. And maybe one of the most difficult things you would ever do is do what we do. And that's not talked about. It's more like people look at these buildings and are like, that's probably pretty easy. No, it's not. It's severely complicated. And there are so many people that go into just one small project. So I think that's where we need to educate the youth and look at all these different kinds of jobs.
Right. And it's awareness, because some of the most brilliant people that I've met are in industry. You think about just the calculations you have to understand how much weight does that bridge need on it at maximum point, to stay up, what kind of, composition of the asphalt and the concrete that you have to keep it. So it's just phenomenal. This is phenomenal.
Yeah. I know you speak out about it, but I mean, not enough people when they're young, they don't understand it. And it's like, yeah, we have failed there, and with the imagery too. Like, again, where our image is all a construction worker when a lot of us are in polos. So it's just so different. I mean, are you seeing some positive things in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion? I mean, obviously, you're here, so that's awesome, and that's positive. What other things are you seeing?
Of course, the pictures, the imagery. Going back to that first question you asked. There's more pictures of diverse individuals and women, LGBTQ plus. I mean, there's so many different things you're seeing at the job site, in the office. those small changes and tweaks. But when we're talking about attracting or even retaining workers and making people feel like they belong, those simple things also is simple because we have diversity out there at the job site. Why can't we have them on the website? Why can't we have it on the handout that you're giving out? Simple stuff. So we're seeing that change and that pivot. There's also more intention behind employee resource groups internally within organizations. Companies are supporting, like, what can we do either for the veterans, the women. I've been speaker for some of the minority groups, looking at allyship. I had an allyship training 101 that I did for a large company because they wanted to know, what does that mean? How do we become an ally? And what does active allyship look like for our organization? So there's people doing and hiring amazing professionals like myself to come in and be a part of the journey to get them there.
Yeah, I look at the Generation Z. I think they are our future in construction. I mean, you could say that about the whole world, really, but they see things differently than our parents' generation. Where biases exist and things are harder to change, right? I mean, they're older. It takes a little bit harder, but for Generation Z, they look at things on, how is this company giving back? What are we doing for DEI? Like they look at it. They already have that perspective, which is awesome. And so I think they're going to be able to take the ball and run with it. Yeah. We just have to get them in positions of power to do so. And that's another struggle that, again, we haven't been very good at.
Right. I think you hit it dead on. Is what are companies doing make a difference within the communities that they're building in? And I had that conversation recently with one client is, as we think about this major project that we're building, we need to also identify economic impact. And what does it look like in the community, whether it be scholarships, whether it be internships, whether it be just making sure not only the inclusivity commitments, which is the small business and the workforce, but what are the extra added values that add as a differentiator for what we're trying to achieve, which is we need through 5-6 years, these long projects, five years out. What do we want to say? What do we want to celebrate? How have we transformed this community and really build up the environment around giving, volunteering, whatever that looks like? And so that's where I think that more conversations are headed to. Right.
And just hopeful that those young people say, hey, I want to try a construction project degree, or I want to be a project manager. And that's been a little bit slow, and obviously we have a lot of work to do there, but I think a lot of industries do. We're not alone there.
But there's programs that exist. Like we think about AGC, under AGC's umbrella, the CEF has the emerging leaders, the construction leadership council. So there's all these different initiatives that focus on the college campus, but then also Build California taps into those who are in high school going directly into the trades. We partner with the unions and our trade partners, make sure that they engage those future leaders. So they're also serving as ambassadors going out to the school site, in addition to their own recruitment under the union trades, right?
Yeah, awesome. And, you said earlier you recently went on your own with Brasfield and Associates. I mean, like you said, good timing. I think it's great timing. So tell me a little bit about what you do and, like, how do you approach a client, like, say, a construction owner that comes to you?
The beautiful part, I've been in a position where people have been reaching out to me for services and assistance because of where we are across industry. And so when those clients do reach out, they're looking for, the majority of them want support when it comes to project pursuits, for inclusivity, when it comes to monitoring, compliance, looking at developing their strategy for the overall DEI component of the proposal. They also want support when it comes to managing the firms under the inclusivity umbrella for tracking, reporting, thinking about ways to have community impact. Then there's also some clients that really want training. Right. So I've had allyship training. I've had a chance to look at diversity and inclusion as a whole, thinking about microaggression. So there's all these different types of trainings. Then the support services I do provide are employee resource groups, resource group, and strategic alignment as well too. Some of the leaders within the organizations really want to understand, I need a program. I need to think about inclusion. What do you think about this? So I have an amazing communication professional that's on my team. Her name is Wendy Wellenbeck. So she helps me when it comes to the corporate communications aspects of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what does it look like at all levels and everyone to be involved.
Right. And I can imagine they want you to come speak at their events too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
I've had a lot of speaking events this year, but my ask is when they ask me to speak, I want it to be some kind of coming back and seeing change. I don't want to just do one speaking thing and we've taken the Dr. G allyship training class and now here's the certificate.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I don't want the check the box kind of engagement partnerships. I want
Right.
organizations that are really committed to about change. One of the clients that I have, I work with Procore on Project Engage, which is a executive leadership course that's designed to implement all types of culture, organization change. And so in partnering with that amazing program, I have a chance to work with not only Procore, but also hearing the journey from leaders in the industry of how they're changing, what they want to do. And my focus will be on the diversity, equity, and inclusion, probably Q1 of 2023. I'll focus on that with the training.
Very cool. Very cool. It's kind of exciting, kind of, you're somewhere at the ground floor of this. So it's like, when you make a policy in something like it's new, like, so, I mean, that's gotta be kind of rewarding, I guess.
Right. It's rewarding and challenging, right?
Yeah.
Because you're really coming in changing. So it's a shift in thinking, changing process, changing the norms. I call it the disruptor, right? Because you're throwing in some new way of thinking, and then it takes a little while to be very, very honest, but they get there because there's intent behind the goal. Like they want to change, they want to be better, they want to figure out how to retain more employees. Because you think about the cost. If they're high turnover, that's a lot of money. Every time you have to go look for the person, you're losing a lot of experience and resource every single time you have to go out to hire.
Right. So in your speaking, are you almost telling them I want to come twice, one this year, one next year?
Yes. Yes. So we can reflect, right? We can look at how the industry has grown because that's what I anticipate, growth in this space.
Yeah, I told you were results driven. No, I appreciate you being here, Dr. J. We have a fun last three questions I wanted to ask you.
Yep.
The first one is, as a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I just always, my funny thing is, I didn't have some people want to be like circus act or something. I don't know. I just wanted to be in a room with a red dress running a meeting. And I remember my mom, I used to always watch her dress up, going to work. She used to work for the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors for many years. And I just remember like, wow, that's a pretty red dress. So I just said in my mind, I wanted to be in a high building, high floor with this red dress leading a meeting. I didn't know what I was doing. And now I have the opportunity. So my dream is now just that, when I have a chance to engage leaders and speak and they're listening.
I mean, honestly, it suits you perfectly. I mean, red is power. It's legacy, and you're doing all those things. I mean, honestly, leaving a footprint on this industry. I mean, how many people can say that? And so you must be very proud.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
You're welcome. Number two, I want to hear about this one. You have your own late night talk show. Who would you want to invite to be your first?
I'm fascinated with Michelle Obama. Not because of the politics component. So people would say, oh, yeah, the politics. No, just because she's a phenomenal woman leader and just faced with all that she's been faced with, elevating through the ranks. She has this amazing quote that's called, we've got a responsibility to live up to our legacy of those who came before us and doing all that to help those who come after us. So she's had a dynamic mate in her husband and supported him, but also was able to grow who she was as a leader. So she had her, she had Let's Move campaign. She wrote a book, Becoming. There's all these different things that she was still able to do. She was a vice president before their run. So just so many different things that I know as a woman in her space, she had to overcome.
Yeah.
So to me, I think, and then she's funny too. So I think that not only would the late night show be funny, but it would also have a component of seriousness. And how do you elevate and advance within that space?
Yeah, she's got a lot of charisma. I mean, if you can only get her to run for president, then
I think she's done. She saw the other side. She's like,
I think she's done too. Probably a wise decision, but maybe Americans something like that for a change, right? Goodness. The last one. Who is the most influential person in your life?
It's my parents. My parents allow me to be the Dr. G you see. They truly support me and have served as a. So I have an amazing, he's now 12, 12-year-old son. His name is Garrison. And so just people always ask me, Dr. G, how you were able to do what you do? You know, you seem like you show up everywhere at 110%. And it's truly my village that allows me to kind of elevate and soar and be all in these places, to be like in the moment, to make sure I'm supporting. I put my mom hat on, and then I really turn off my phone. I'm just a mom. Funny, put my sweats on, my little baseball hat, just mom. But again, it's my parents that allow me to be in this space because of their commitment to helping me excel. And I think about when I first got pregnant. I'll share a personal story. But when I first got pregnant, I remember I was up in Northern California working on the Bay Bridge at the time. And my mom was like, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to move forward. My child, this is important to me." And she was like, "If you move back home to Los Angeles, right? Southern California, I was in NorCal. If you move back home, I will retire from my job." And she had worked there, like I said, almost 30 years. "I'll retire from my job and I'll help you raise your child." And she has been just that. And then of course my dad comes along because they're a couple. So I've had both of them, just really helping me while I climb the corporate ladder, and then also branch out, especially now in this space now where I'm a small business owner, really helping me grow in this area.
Awesome. It's a perfect way to conclude this, because we talk about imagery and what your mom and your dad showed you, and even the imagery of the red dress. Like, there's so many little things about that matter that people wouldn't even realize. But my parents are the same way, so we're very blessed that way, right? To have them as the people we look up to, we're lucky.
Right.
Thank you so much, Dr. D, for being here. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you? Your website, drgiovannabrasfield.com.
Yep.
Best way.
And then, of course, LinkedIn is always a home run, right? You can just message me on LinkedIn, find my profile. I'm easy to access, so you can always do that as well. But drgiovannabrasfield.com is the website to check out. But feel free to stay connected.
I'm a big fan. Just let me know how I can support you. I'll be there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. That was great.
Yay. Thank you. I'm so excited I had a chance to be finally, right?
I know. We got it done. I'll let you know when it gets out there. You can help promote it. But like I said, whatever I can do for you in your new venture, just let me know. I'll always share and do what I can.
Thank you. And I'll send you, because I know AGC has a DEI forum coming up. I think at the end of this month, I'll get that over to you, that link. So, because it's open to members and non-members, free. This is virtually log in. And then, of course, RAND, when they have their events and research, I'll share that as well.
Yeah, a couple of those links would be great, because, like I said, just trying to point people in the right direction. And I know that this was huge for them, but like having a couple of those links will help too.
Okay. Yes, thank you. I'll get that to you today.
All right, sounds good. Have a good day.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
What a great podcast with Dr. G. She is obviously a wealth of knowledge and at the ground floor of something really big in construction. Hey, if you don't think we need diversity, if you don't think we don't need women, we don't need any minorities, if you think that, you're very wrong. And we need everybody. We need Generation Z. I know there's a lot of people who like to bag on them as well. If we don't have every single component of America, then we will fail as an industry. And we are aging at a drastic rate. There are going to be people retiring, more every year than we are getting new workers. And with an already close to 1 million worker shortage, this is important. And I know for a lot of you, this is a sensitive subject, or maybe you have a manager or a boss that hasn't quite wrapped their mind around this, or maybe is carrying some biases from their past or from their parents' past. Hey, it is what it is. You're not going to be able to change everybody, but you can make a change yourself. You can make a change within your organization. Reach out to people like Dr. Drew and Jennifer Todd and all these great people who are leading the charge with this DEI and with diversity and imagery and inclusion and equity and what that all means and how to do it. I as I told her in the podcast, I don't have all the answers, but I do know some people who do, and she's one of them. And my goal at U.S. Construction Zone is to point you men and women in the right direction and find the people that you need to support your business and carry it through the next generation. If you do this as a team, and if you start to implement some of these things, especially in your meetings right now, you can certainly value your employees more, and you can certainly create a more empathy in your team. And that starts with you, and it starts with having the right conversations and allowing everybody to weigh in their opinions. And everyone's opinion is going to be different, but most of the time that opinion is different because of their upbringing and because of their culture and because of their parents. So we need everybody, and it's high time that we all get behind this. And it's not only needed, it is absolutely the right thing to do. So thanks again to Dr. G, and for all of those who are listening. I appreciate it. We'll see you again on In the Zone. Bye.
You've been listening to In the Zone with Jeremy and Valerie Owens. Be sure to subscribe to In the Zone and stay in the know with the best minds in the construction industry. To nominate an innovator or change maker in the construction industry, connect with your management peers, and stay up to date with construction industry news, be sure to visit usconstructionzone.com.